Hello, everyone. We are live on YouTube and LinkedIn. Our topic today is the world population explosion demands new energy and electricity channels. I'm Armando Cavagna, this one, and here is Ronald Stein, engineer, columnist on energy advisor and energy literacy, and co-author of a Pulitzer Prize nominated book, Clean Energy Exploitations. And Nancy Pillman. I'm not sure that I'm speaking right her name, but she can correct me after. Anthropologist, environmentalist, 600 programs for Econews TV, 2,700 environmental direction radio shows, and several things. I cannot speak everything about her because it's very complicated. She's a very famous person. Good afternoon, people. It's a very honor to have you today with us.
Good afternoon. It's
Armando,
an honor to be
happy
here too.
holidays to you.
Perfect. This conversation today is based on an article that they produced a few days ago with the same title of our podcast. And my first point is the following. Mhm. Is there enough energy to generate electricity and energy to manufacture products for 10 billion people that we are coming to have 10 billion people on the earth? Nancy.
I do not believe that the earth can sustain a continuous growth in population. If we maintained a carrying capacity on this planet Earth, we would be able to provide the energy and other resources so important to the health of our communities and human society, as well as protecting our ecosystems and all the other life on the planet.
At the same time, we are increasing the needs for more life quality, Ronald. And it's not population growing, but the needs the population has.
The
How do you
needs
see?
Well,
need to change.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
overconsumerism needs to change. While we have, as Ron, my co-author, knows, we have a different approach to energy, but we both agree that while we have the fossil fuels and we do need them for the products, we can certainly develop alternatives, renewable energies, and other kinds of alternative products so that we don't exhaust the fossil fuels.
Mhm, mhm.
Armando, Nancy is 100% correct. You know, the world populated from 1 to 8 billion, not because of oil, but because of the products. And the challenge we have right now is the wealthy countries are the ones really consuming the products. I mean, we have lifestyles, the iPads and iPhones and air conditioning and, water, sanitation, and we're consuming products. But the problem is 80% of the planet is living on less than $10 a day. So about 6 billion people have really yet to join the Industrial Revolution. And if they do, and they have hospitals and they have airports and they have shopping centers, they're going to be consuming a lot more products. And there are limitations on oil, and we'd like to get off of it, been trying to for 200 years, but to be able to provide all the products for the growing population, that's going to be a population explosion impacting the products, more electricity, and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, there's a lot of challenges ahead, and we got to conserve and be more efficient about what we have and get off of it if we can. And the challenge is be scaling it because, yeah, you might be able to make toothpaste from grass, but you got to make a lot of toothpaste for a lot of people.
So, do you both believe that we can a replacement for oil for manufacturing products, or it's impossible in the next 50 or 100 years?
Well, I'll make a comment. Right now, we've been trying for 200 years, but not able to do it. We're trying to and coming up with a clone that can meet the supply chain demands of the wealthy countries, the developing countries, and the additional population. That's going to be a challenge. What is the clone?
It's not really going to be possible to provide ecological, sustainable alternatives for
Mhm.
all the different kinds of products that we have. We have right now on this planet over 135 people starving to death in all over the world in different countries. I read a book by Dr. Paul Ehrlich back in 1968 called The Population Bomb. And he pointed out that 2 billion people on this planet, we can have the resources, we can have the lifestyle, everybody could enjoy what we here in the United States are enjoying. But that's not possible as the population continues to increase. And even if we develop alternatives, which I have been advocating forever, that we do try to have wind and solar and other kinds of renewable energies. We have biodegradable products that we don't use the plastics. We use the fossil fuels very, very carefully because some products just cannot be manufactured in any other way.
Mhm.
But we are overdoing it. And it's going to be a massive change that the nations of this planet, over 200 nations, have to agree on that we have a crisis, that we must make a change while we have the resources. The answer is not just continue to use fossil fuels until it's used up. The answer is not just to try and develop some alternatives, because some of the alternatives are not so great. If we cut down rainforests to grow some material that we consider ecological, that's a problem too. So it's really an issue where we have to look at a bigger picture. That comes back to the theme of our paper, and that's overpopulation. But the second theme is we have to change our lifestyle. We have to change our consumerism. We have to change what kind of resources we're using and how we use them. And Ron can speak to the very special elements that are used even in our computer products like lithium. I mean, we're here right now on the computer, but rare earth elements are hard to get. And so is there an alternative to that?
Ronald, so it's not only overpopulation, but overconsumption.
Overconsumption is the big thing. Right now, to meet the product demands of the materialistic society, we're extracting resources from Mother Earth in the range of like 100 million barrels a day. And that's taking a lot out of Mother Earth. And well's gonna run dry at some point in time. It might be 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, but one thing for sure, this 4 billion-year-old planet is gonna be here with or without us. And so, for our grandchildren and their kids, yeah, we're enjoying a great lifestyle, but we're extracting and not replenishing
Yeah.
what we're taking out of Mother Earth.
Human species is less than 1%, 0.01% of the species on the planet. That's tiny. The other species, some of them aren't going to be here because of humans' actions. Some of the species are going to survive. Probably the cockroaches. They seem to.
Interesting. Very interesting. Good
But
point.
with the small number of humans, our technological impact is humongous. And that has to change. We have to change how we use the technology that we have.
Solar and wind renewables, they call, are made by petroleum products. So we cannot
Exactly.
have. So are they considered clean energy, green energy?
Well, if you look at the resources, you got to mine for it, and yeah, no, it's really not clean. Besides, it's just electricity, and you don't need electricity if you don't have oil, because all electricity, we got 6 ways to generate electricity. You got wind, solar, coal, natural gas, hydro, nuclear. All 6 ways to generate electricity came after oil, because to make electricity, you need computers, wires, insulation, et cetera, all made from oil. So if you get rid of oil, you get rid of electricity. And the abrupt change that Nancy's talking about, Yeah, we have to change. I mean, if we went back to the 1800s, they had no hospitals, they had no airports, they had no shopping centers, they had no air conditioning. I mean, that's a big life change. I mean, life expectancy was probably, 30 to 40 years of age, but yeah, it's a different lifestyle. We're very materialistic, and that's a situation that we can't continue this way.
No renewable energy is totally green.
Yeah,
There's
that's
no
right.
question about it. There are problems with alternatives, and those problems have to be solved. One of the big differences, though, is if we can use electric vehicles or solar panels to get the energy that's free out there from the sun, then we aren't creating that carbon dioxide. We aren't creating the global warming that's a major problem. In other words, if we're burning fossil fuel in our cars unnecessarily or to heat our homes or in other ways, that creates an additional pollution problem. And the renewable energies can solve some of that. But let's not forget that all energy has its problems. And if you look at the environmental history of pollution and resource consumption hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the empires deforested the planet. They were cutting down the trees, and expansion of empires was to get the raw resources before the coal or the oil became more accessible. Trees. And it's still a problem if you go to some places like Africa, as I have, they're going into the forest and cutting the trees and causing deforestation because they don't have the alternatives. A solar cooker would be a great alternative. I have one. You put it out there, cooks during the day, come home, the sun's done the work. It's possible. So it's a mixed bag in terms of how do we make the change to what, and is that totally sustainable, ecological? No, we haven't solved that problem. But using fossil fuel crazily like we are doing now doesn't solve the problem either, creates problems.
Yeah, yeah. Ronald, let me ask you, a barrel of oil, 15% is used to manufacture products, 15. The other 85% is used for fuels, logistics. So
Correct.
you see that should the climate policies focus on fuels, because this is the problem, because the 15% is immutable.
Well, 15% is really the oil derivatives that contributes to making the products. But as Nancy alluded to, there's no silver bullet answers. I mean, she talked about renewable energy. I talk about renewable electricity because wind and solar is only exists in the wealthy countries that can subsidize them. It's very expensive to build. The 6 billion people living on less than $10 a day, they may never see wind and solar because they can't subsidize themselves out of a paper bag. And so it's a real challenge. But currently, to feed 8 billion people, yeah, we need the 50,000 merchant ships that are moving products around the world. You grow something in one country, move it to a different country. And yeah, and it takes fuel to move the ships. It takes a lot of parts and products to build the ships. So it's catch 22. We're trying to service the 8 billion people, and to do that right now, today, we need oil for the products to build the ships, to build the planes, to build the airports, to build the hospitals. And it's great that longevity is increased to 75 plus, um, but it's coming at the expense. I mean, hospitals use a lot of products. People are traveling all over the world. The airports are getting bigger and bigger, and planes are getting bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
And yeah, and the wealthy countries are really having a good time, and the developing countries are just trying to catch up, but I think they're falling behind.
You mentioned the hospitals, and the United States is a one-time reuse throwaway. Other There was a time when they sterilized equipment, they reused equipment, and some of the solutions aren't being used, and it does need to be changed. And I just, as you mentioned, I've been doing an environmental radio program, a new show weekly. I had Ron on my program with his excellent book, and I've had over 2,700 radio shows. I just did one with a researcher in the United Kingdom about microplastics. And that's something that we have to realize, that plastics don't break down and they get smaller and smaller. Wildlife is suffering from them because they're finding them in the ocean. They're eating them as food. We are getting microplastics in our own bodies. It's a health issue. And so we need to cut back on the fossil fuel plastics from fossil fuels when we don't need to. There are biodegradable bags and other kinds of replacements. When we can, we should use them. And unfortunately, the corporations don't want to make those kinds of changes. That's where I really believe that we need to have policies and programs and support financially to encourage the alternatives that do exist, are there, so that we reduce the massive problems that we have from the products made from fossil fuels.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I know that you both live in California, and California has different policies for these things. And another question, Chevron left California, as Tesla left California before, is because the energy policies or other reasons?
It's a business decision. It's very expensive to do business here in California with
Oh.
the over regulations, and they could basically run their business anywhere. So they're just finding a less expensive place to do it.
Mhm. And California has different policies for microplastics, for instance, Nancy?
California has been a leader in some environmental policies that I support. I was active back in the 70s and 80s to have us recycle just our general glass and cans that we use every day for soft drinks or other beverages. And this was all being thrown away, and we got a recycling bill. We have to develop policies to not fill up our landfills with waste, recycle, reprocess. The fortunate part about recycling, particularly even in the plastic industry, and this is where I'm really kind of upset, is that they say, oh, it's recyclable, but in reality, less than 10% of all the products get recycled. You see on the bottoms of containers a circle. It's very misleading, saying, oh, it's recyclable, 1, 2, 3, 4, but only 1 or 2 gets recycled. If it's 3, 4, or 5, it doesn't get recycled, but it looks like it. The average public thinks that we are recycling, and it's not. If you follow the recycle chain of these products, it's not happening. And so I am very proud to be in California. I love California. Wish everybody would. Well, we don't need too many people here. We have enough. You're welcome to visit. And California is recognizing that changes need to be done. I became an environmentalist in college in '69 with the oil spill in Santa Barbara. And the poor wildlife had to be cleaned and protected by volunteers because the oil companies weren't doing anything. We've had major problems with oil drilling. Even here where I live in Los Angeles, near Beverly, there are oil wells. There are oil wells still going on that are affecting the people who live nearby with trying to get that oil. And so the companies need to be more responsible. And I'm pleased that California is trying to do it. We haven't done enough as far as I'm concerned. For some people, maybe we've done too much.
And the friend of Ronald, the governor, will be president next time, so he's very proud of him. But Nancy and Ronald, how to reach equilibrium in this system? I mean, between growing population, growing demands, environment, less pollutant, how to reach the equilibrium? Because it's impossible. Each one is pushing for one side, and the discussions.
Well, we have to stimulate conversations and education, because I know, like the supermarket I go to, they stopped using plastic bags. They're using paper bags now.
Oh,
which can
Hopefully
be,
recycled paper bags.
is it rentals?
Yes.
It's
And,
rentals.
so you don't feel as bad when you're throwing away paper bag, it is going to be recycled versus the plastic bag. So, one small step, but
Yeah, sure.
it's an education because, right now, the animal kingdom doesn't have a problem with recycling because they don't use anything. It's us, the humans, that are using all the products. And some of the products, as Nancy said, they're great, but they're not recyclable. You go to a hospital and it's just amazing, all the plastic that's there. And they're constantly, changing the plastic, gloves every 3 seconds,
Straws,
throwing them
gloves,
away.
everything.
And, the needles, I mean, everything is being thrown away, and we're a throwaway society. That has to change, and that's going to be a matter of education because we got to focus on efficiencies and conservation. We don't want to, function like an elephant and use nothing, but, there's got to be a point where we're basically not damaging the area and the climate and the environment as much as we are right now.
I would like to add that, as Ron said, having a dialogue, having conversations is so important. And while Ron and I don't believe on every single environmental issue as being the problem or what we should do about it, we're having the dialogue, we're having the conversation, and we're finding where we can agree, where we can make the changes. And that is what is so important. And to answer your question, there are solutions. We can have free contraceptives to everybody who wants it. Every woman should be allowed to control her own body, decide if she wants to have babies or not have babies, so that every kid on this planet is taken care of, is well fed, educated, has the health, has the education. That we have to do what we can do, and we can do something about overpopulation if nations were willing to do it. If the United States would agree to it and participated in, instead of destroying contraceptives, as our current administration is doing, which is pathetic, giving international aid, which is necessary so people can survive. But here in our own country, we need to be looking at what we can do now. What changes can we make now? And that is what is necessary. And unfortunately, not everybody is ready to admit that the crisis is not just going to come and is not now. It's been in the past. As Ron said, for 200 years since we've been using fossil fuel, the problems have gotten worse and worse and worse. We should look and see how we can change it.
Yeah. Before we go to the final remarks from each one of you, let me go to my last point. The United States is moving hard, strongly to fossil fuels, oil exploration, gas, natural gas exploration, instead of renewables or nuclear is strong. I know that nuclear is coming back very strong. But in 3 years, probably, if Democrats win, everything will be in the opposite side. So how do you see this trend, this capacity of the country to move to the opposite side each 4 years?
It's a problem. I believe that the United States should still work internationally, and we should never have pulled out of the Paris Accords. COP30, which deals with the climate crisis, was just in your home country, Brazil, and there were demonstrations there by the indigenous people who were suffering from the exploitation of the Amazon, from all sorts of different developments in the Amazon. And we need to listen to the people. We need to work with other nations. We need to see what the problems are and see where we can come together. We can't function independently. Our resources, everything we're using here, something's been imported from another place. I think Ron mentioned that, goods are going around the world. We benefit from that. But how are those goods? Or is there fair trade? Is the environment being protected when we're obtaining those goods? How are we manufacturing them? Is it sustainable, ecological? So there's a lot of work to be done. And I want to thank you so very much for allowing this dialogue, because this has been a wonderful experience for me to work with Ron to come together together to
Yeah.
see where we can work together.
Yeah, fantastic. Ron, how do you see this 4 years balance?
Well, when these meetings take place, like COP30 happened in Brazil, we really got to take a look at what Nancy's saying. What's good for the 8 billion people on this planet? Because here in California, we have a lot of over-regulations. Newsom wants to get rid of oil. Well, that's fine. If he gets rid of oil, okay, we've solved the problem for 40 million people, which is 0.5% of the world's population. So it's not good for the 80 billion people, but we have a nice clean environment here. Yeah, we really got to take a look at the 8 billion and be less materialistic, and it's just got to be totally education. Um, the Like I say, wind and solar, they have their place. They can generate electricity. EVs have their place. There's no single silver bullet answer to the world's problems. It's going to be a lot from a lot of people and from different countries. If we can, make something less expensive in one country, maybe that's fine. But we don't want to do it and exploit the people who have yellow, brown, and black skin because they have no labor laws and no environmental laws. So it's got to be ethical and moral. And like I say, we got to focus on conservation and efficiency. This is a holiday period of time, and I see all the toys that kids are getting, and there's more and more and more toys. And yeah, 99% of them is made out of
Plastics.
plastic. So again, it's a materialistic society. I remember when I was a kid, I don't think there were that many toys available, and so you
Yeah.
pretty much, play with things, make up things to play with. And but yeah, like you say, we're generating a lot of products that are contributing to the problem.
You mentioned a holiday phase, Merry Christmas from George Oliveira, a colonel in Portugal. He's a friend of us.
Very good.
Thank you, George, for you too. Okay, the final point I would like to hear from each of you, one of you, the final comments. How can we reach the equilibrium? Because for me, is still a challenge to map the equilibrium from growing environmental issues. How can we reach this? A conversation, I know, I understand that conversation, but the essence of this discussion.
We have to recognize that there is the crisis. I coordinated the first Earth Day in Southern California in 1970. And at that time, I said there are 5 to 10 species a day becoming extinct. Entire species, plants and animals, becoming extinct. That number hasn't changed. It's happening now because of human consumption, human activity, human overpopulation. And we have to recognize that we must do something about it. The root cause of our ecological crisis, of our climate change, our climate warming, the pollution, all of this boils down to the root cause, and we need to tackle it and deal with it and provide what is necessary so that we reduce the population to a viable carrying capacity where we can use fossil fuels effectively, where necessary, where there's no alternative, and where we use ecological, sustainable renewables that are alternatives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ronald, please.
I think, with here in the United States, elections are coming up. People are running for mayor, for governor, for president. And I think this is an ideal opportunity for ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN. They're going to be interviewing these candidates and give the candidates an opportunity to express their energy wisdom, because they're trying to come up with silver bullet answers. If you want, wind and solar and EV batteries, is it ethical to get that lithium and cobalt from China and Africa and exploit people there? So there's got to be conversations. And I think if they ask the right questions, we can get the people to express their energy wisdom if they have any, or basically elaborate on it. And what are the repercussions if you do this? You got to go somewhere else. If you get rid of oil totally, now you get rid of all the products that is supporting the hospitals and the airports. Because going to a hospital, going to an airport, try to identify something that the wind turbine made. It's not possible. So there's got to be conversation. I think open-ended questions would allow these candidates to express their energy wisdom, and I think that would facilitate communication among the people voting for them. If you want to vote for somebody that has no wisdom at all, or like I say, just be conversation. But I think the press has an ideal opportunity to the upcoming interviews to bring that to the forefront.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure receiving Nancy Pearlman and Ronald Stein.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.